Hello there gamers, and welcome to a brand new edition of Almost Gaming. On today's show, Nintendo has plans for a comeback, Sony looks into emulation, Microsoft makes a strange offer, a new zombie mod needs a new name, and more problems for Disney gaming. Let's get this party started. We shall start with Sony. The PlayStation developer took some flack when they removed backwards compatibility from the PlayStation 3. But it may be lesson learned because a new rumor says that the PlayStation 4 may be getting backwards compatibility in a big way. A report on Eurogamer says that a well-placed source within Sony's new game streaming service PlayStation Now says that PS3 titles will use the service, but their plans for PS1 and PS2 titles more involve local gameplay via emulation, perhaps adding some HD enhancements. Sony did phase out hardware emulation with the PS3, but apparently has been working to bring it back ever since. The PlayStation 3 is capable of emulating PS1, PS2, and even PSP games, while the Vita is capable of emulating PSP and PS1 games. So the code already exists and would just need some tweaks for the PS4. Local emulation is the method that most gamers would prefer, especially since that may mean not having to rebuy games that you already have. However, it's unclear right now if that's actually the case. Will this be a firmware update that allows the PS4 to read older discs? Or will it be more of a virtual console system where you buy and download classic games? Probably the latter, but we'll just have to wait and see. We move on to Nintendo, who had some big questions to answer after their recent revised financial statement. They recently held a stockholders meeting, and obviously they needed to show their stockholders they have some sort of plan to climb out of this hole. Here are some of the things that they said they plan to do, courtesy of a report on Kotaku. So, gamers have been begging Nintendo to let them play Mario games on smartphones for a long time now. Nintendo maintained their stance that placing their games on smartphones would undercut their hardware business, but they do finally seem prepared to acknowledge the world of mobile. They said they plan to create apps, not games, but things that will help draw gamers into the Nintendo ecosystem. So think more along the line of companion apps. One of the things Nintendo said they're going to do could be a big help. Ever since people realized that the Wii U was basically a home console version of the DS, they wondered why there aren't any DS games on the Virtual Console. Nintendo said at the meeting that there was a technical limitation that was preventing this, but that they have overcome it and there will be DS games on the Virtual Console. They also announced a new Quick Start menu that will be added to the Wii U gamepad. When the gamepad is activated, it will display a menu of recently used apps, allowing you to select one and dive right into that app. This will greatly reduce startup time for the console. This feature is planned to be included in a summer system update. Along those same lines, Nintendo also plans to focus on the uniqueness of the gamepad and what makes it different from other video game consoles, and thus makes the Wii U unique. Perhaps most strangely, Nintendo said they're preparing to focus on the area of health. Now that doesn't seem too odd on its face, seeing as Wii Fit and Brain Age have been big sellers for them, but to specifically narrow in on that area does seem a bit odd. Nintendo has apparently targeted health as a blue ocean, meaning an area not a lot of other companies are focusing on where they feel they can excel. Nintendo also said they will explore hardware to support such an idea. That could go as far as to suggest that they're preparing to create a new platform that will focus specifically on health. Another idea Nintendo has had to raise some revenue is to re-explore the idea of licensing out some of their characters to other games. Now, this has not been a good idea for Nintendo in the past, as anyone who has even laid eyes on the Zelda CDI games can tell you. But if Nintendo has learned their lesson from that experience and can ensure the quality of the games their characters are going to be in, that can lead to some more positive gaming experiences outside of Nintendo first-party titles. And finally, a couple of points meant to address the increasing cost of gaming, which families and even some gamers are beginning to find prohibitive. Nintendo says they will explore offering a cheaper line of gaming hardware to reach new gaming markets. Now, personally, I've been saying this for a long time. I've always felt like that if Nintendo offered two simultaneous consoles, one cheaper and for families, and the other competitive with the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, that they could dominate the market. Also, they said they will explore bulk prices for games, offering discounts to gamers that have bought a certain number of their titles. In fact, Nintendo somewhat explored this idea during a recent indie game sale on the Wii U, offering games at 60% of their normal cost, as long as at least 3 had been or were purchased. Of course, all of this is up in the air, future type stuff, nothing directly confirmed. We're just gonna have to wait and see what Nintendo actually follows through on. I will say this though, all eyes should be on the big end for the upcoming E3 convention. Onward we go to PC gaming, and hang on to your seats because I'm not going to talk about Steam machines. Zombies have been all over gaming lately, kind of like an invasion or something. The genre took an interesting step forward with DayZ, a mod for the game Arma 2, which has taken off in popularity due to its efforts on realism and starkly accurate reflection of the human condition. Far Cry 3 has become something of a desirable sandbox for game modders after the game makers themselves released what was essentially a mod for that game, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. So it only stands to reason that the modding community would want to combine that with the zombie outbreak, and indeed there is a group of modders doing just that. However, the title that the modders chose for this game is a somewhat unfortunate one, Z-Day. Now, the title makes sense, it's basically Zombie Day, but it also does sort of call to DayZ. So, to avoid any possible confusion, the modders say that they are going to change the name of the game, and say that doing so will actually cause a significant amount of work to need to be redone. Now, it's unclear at this time if they're taking any suggestions for a new title, but I have left a link to their YouTube page in the video description. Let's head over to Microsoft, and I think it's safe to say that the Xbox One maker is just a little bit behind in the new console war. One reason for this may be the PS4's cheaper price. To address this, Microsoft is trying an interesting strategy. They've been emailing out an ad to gamers telling them to come to their local Microsoft store, turn in their PlayStation 3, and get $100 of store credit towards an Xbox One. In one fell swoop, this gets gamers off of the Sony platform and addresses the price difference that might be hurting the sales of the Xbox One. The problem with this is that the basic response is very simple, represented here by a mock response ad made by NeoGAF user Genbatsu. Keep your PS3 and save $100 by ignoring Microsoft and buying a PlayStation 4. It does seem like this ad campaign can just highlight the price difference between the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, so in the end this really may just backfire. And for our featured story, we have some bad gaming news coming out of the House of Mouse. A report in the Wall Street Journal says that Disney is planning to lay off hundreds of employees from their interactive media department in the upcoming week. These layoffs are set to include some employees from social game developer Playdom. This news comes just over a year after Disney shut down Epic Mickey developers Junction Point, and just less than a year after Disney shut down LucasArts. Disney seems to be focusing in on their very successful NFC franchise Disney Infinity, and is planning versions for the Marvel and Star Wars universes. This is actually somewhat depressing news, as Disney has made some really creative games in the past, but seems to be pulling away from being a traditional gaming developer. Listen, Disney goes where the money is, and there's no denying the success of the Infinity franchise, which itself is a ripoff of Skylanders. Just seems like we're not going to be seeing as many traditional games from Mickey and company. Well, at least we know Kingdom Hearts 3 is coming. That is going to do it for this edition of Almost Gaming. Thank you so much for watching. Please help our show grow by liking the video by clicking the like button right down below, leaving us a comment or a question, and especially sharing this video with anyone you know that likes video games. Also make sure to look for us on Facebook and Twitter. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Please stay tuned for extra lives, and until next time, game on! On today's show, Nintendo has plans for a comeback. Sony, A new zombie mod needs a new name. And something else. Microsoft makes a strange offer. Microsoft makes a strange offer. A new zombie mod. Microsoft makes a strange offer. A new zombie mod needs a new name, and it's bad news for Disney Gaming. Nintendo has plans for a comeback. Nintendo has plans for a comeback. Sony does a thing. But it may be lesson learned, because a new rumor says that PlayStation 3 is a video game console that plays games on the PlayStation 3 console. We shall start with Sony. But we could end with anything we want. But it may be lesson says that while PS3 titles will use the service, they recently held a stockholders meeting and obviously had to have some sort of blah, 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 blah. They recently held a stockholders meeting and obviously needed to show some and they obviously needed to show their stockholders that they have some basically when the gamepad is activated, a series of hamburgers will come out of it and you will eat them and then you'll turn into Mario. They also announced a new quick start feature that will be when the gamepad is activated, it will display a small menu of recently used shoots. Nintendo also plans to focus on the gamepad and showing what makes it unique. And yeah, meaning an unexplored area that other companies aren't really paying attention to where they can excel. And the other part. Nintendo said that they will explore offering a cheaper line of gaming hardware to get more gaming markets. Nintendo said that they will explore offering a cheaper line of gaming hardware to draw in more gaming markets. Okay, that flash. They're emailing an ad out to gamers that tells them to come to their local Let's head over to Microsoft, and I think it's safe to say that the I don't think it's safe to say that. It does seem like this that was going good. The basic response is pretty The layoffs come just over a year after Nintendo shut down Epic Mickey developer Junction Point and just under a year after they shut down LucasArts. Now, this news comes just over a year after This news comes just over a year after Dang it! And just less than a year after they shut down LucasArts. This news comes just less than just a fart. It's Nintendo. See, I did it again. This isn't really a blooper, but I'd like anybody who's watching this to know that I did basically the last two segments of the show with a rather painful cramp in my right foot that makes it hurt to stand on a little bit. So if you notice me standing a bit off balance, that was why.